Hey guys, this is Coach Keita Bussey with 180 Firearms Training. Today we have Mike Seifert and John Vlieger. Welcome to the 180 Firearms Training podcast. Hey John, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey Keita, thanks for having me. Mike, good to see you.
Hey, you too, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I mean, if you want to meet someone who has let this sport and industry consume them, I guess I'm your guy. Been competing USPSA, as much as possible anyway, since 2015. Took third in the nation in CO last year, fifth in single stack, sixth in open, shoot open most of the time. Currently work full time at Mark 7 Reloading. Did a 3.5-year stint at Shooters Connection. I love those guys. Some good times. Ex-Army, spent 10 years, 13 Delta fire direction for artillery, 06-16, and grew up in the Pacific Northwest. So I guess that's kind of my life working backwards, at least the high points. Happily married and live on 18 acres in Northern Kentucky, enjoying the work from home life and the shooting and training as much as I want and need to life.
Now, something I have to say about Mark 7, they have excellent customer service. If you ever have an issue, you get on the phone with them, they can immediately figure it out. Those guys are so good.
I wouldn't say immediately. Some
well, every time I've called.
Yeah, some malfunctions are hard to track down than others. Great example, we had one year and a half back. Guy was having power issues. His tablet would just stop communicating all of a sudden. And we're trying to figure it out. We finally get him on a video chat. And he says, yeah, I just did it right then. I'm like, hey man, what was that sound in the background right before you said something, it went haywire? Oh, my wife was blow drying her hair on the same circuit. So, something like that takes a while. But no, it's why I love this job. It's working in customer service or tech service, I guess you could say, at Mark 7, is because it's a puzzle. The machines can only, certain things can only affect certain things. So getting in that diagnostic mindset, getting a machine or someone machine over the phone or a video call in front of you and figuring out what's going wrong based on your symptoms. Never been in the medical field, but it's kind of like, you're trying to diagnose some symptoms, diagnose the underlying disease. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know that feeling. It's kind of like, when people tell me like, oh man, hey, my Da Vinci had a jam or something like that. That just bothers me. Like I don't know if you feel the same way, but I almost I want to figure it out right there. I'm like, I have the exact same gun that you have, and like my thing runs perfectly. So it just bothers me that yours isn't working either. So I wonder if it's the same thing for you.
I've been around enough equipment in my life to know that it doesn't matter who made it, doesn't matter where it's made. Stuff breaks, stuff fails. So a customer a few months ago, they got a tool head in, and it had some it wasn't assembled correctly. It was a assembly error, and I'd personally never seen that error before. So I'm like, no joke, that can happen. And his comment kind of hurt. It didn't hurt my feelings so much as it made me question his life experiences. He said, don't you guys have QC? And I'm like, hey, guy's upset. That's fine. But, show me a product line or something that came out of, hey, we made 1 million of these or whatever it is. And every single one of them was perfect. That doesn't happen. So, but no, our QC is leaps and bounds. I mean, better than what it used to be, but it is stuff still breaks, man. It's life. It's like nothing lasts forever. Not everything's perfect. But we are putting out machines every week, and it's great seeing people get results with them.
Before your full press came out, I had the auto drive that I put on the 1050, and I made this video of making a big deal of taking that handle and tossing it in the trash can.
Yeah, but it's actually in the manual to use the handle as your pry bar to set the belt tension correctly. At least it used to be. I can't remember if we changed that verbiage or not. But
okay, well, that was a long time ago. I don't remember if I did. I didn't actually throw it away. It was just to make a funny video.
Yeah.
So we're gonna throw a video of John shooting in here. So check this out.
Are you ready? Stand by. Nice, John.
All right, Mike, you have a bunch of questions for John. Why don't you hit it?
Yeah, I'm actually just pulling those up as we speak right now. There's a bunch of stuff that I thought about before the show, but like, you know, I kind of wanted you to like start out by talking about your Rafferty custom, your open gun that you run. I mean, it's not a name that most people are familiar with. It's not like in the Atlas or the Infinities, but I know every time I've seen you run that gun, that thing runs flawlessly. And I just was, you know, maybe you wanted to talk about Rafferty a little bit and what he's done.
And it's funny, you know, everyone, when people are on podcasts or on anything, you know, that's for content creation, you know, it's your job to rep your sponsors, to give that attention back to the companies that support you. And I love doing that. But what I found is I've been working with Pat, hell, since end of 17. Pat's a good friend at this point. It's not that he's my gun builder, it's that he's my friend. I've stayed at his house many times. He's hung out with me here in Kentucky. We talk every week. He's a good friend of mine. He also happens to make some of the best 1911, 2011 pistols in the nation, in the world, even, if I would wager. What's funny is I don't actually have my Rafferty open guns with me right now. Pat has them. They're getting a refinish. I wasn't planning on shooting open until June, so I gave those guns to him back in December. I don't like cutting in line. I don't ask Pat to cut in line. I ask to schedule my stuff. So, you know, hey man, I'm gonna giving you my guns end of the year. So I want to make sure you know that. But we're putting a new top end on the one with over 50,000 on it, out of an abundance of caution for going into World Shoot. My single stack is in my range bag, but no, Pat's built 5 guns for me, 4 open guns and 1 single stack. He's also done a ton of other work and prep work. When you send a gun out for finish, the prep work is key. You know, if you just sandblast it and throw it in a bin and send it off to get coated, you're going to get what, you know, garbage in, garbage out. You get what you pay for in that regard. Pat says make sure to send me pictures of his bleeding hands every time he goes through a batch for prep, because that's what he's doing with his hands. But he and I have gone through a lot of R&D together, trying stuff that works. You know, it's not just about having a sponsored shooter to test gear. It's about, I have a range. I shoot a lot already. So if we want to change something, we can test it immediately. He could have someone who, you know, knows what to look for while they're using it, putting, you know, 2,000 to 3,000 rounds through it by the end of the week, you know, to vet that process. So a great example is a feed ramp modifications. You know, one of the big problems with shooting 9mm in 2011 platform is it's shorter round. It has a longer distance to jump to the feed ramp to the chamber. So modifying the feed ramp angle, we played with, and it's now a standard service that he does. You know, you can send your barrel to him and he'll recut the feed ramp to assist with feeding, stuff like that. We've, you know, mostly him. You know, I'm just the loose nut behind the trigger. But having that kind of relationship, you know, I get to try new stuff. I get to be looking over his shoulder, one of the best smiths in the world. And he gets someone who gets to find out how it breaks. You know, my reputation is not that I'm easy on equipment.
Yeah, so it's more like a family style atmosphere over there. That's kind of how I feel at Da Vinci too. I mean, you know, yeah, technically you're my sponsor, but you know, it feels more like family.
Yeah, and I only have, out of the logos on my jersey, what have you, I think I only have an official contract, meaning signed contract with one of them. I don't want to go into details. But the rest of them are verbal, you know, relationships. They're, hey man, how can I help you? How can we make this arrangement have an ROI for both of us? You know, without getting, I'm not trying to do a, you know, syndicated TV show here or anything, but it's, you know, having a plan, making sure both parties get what they expect out of it.
Right. It's got to work for everybody. Otherwise, you know, somebody feels like they're getting screwed at the end of the day. But you know, those are always the best kind. I also have all of my sponsorships are a handshake and a smile, and there's just trust there. Nothing really needs to be written. And I feel like that's kind of how it should be. You know, I mean, I don't know. But to that, in what you were just saying, you were saying that you guys modify your feed ramps for your 9mm bullets. I strictly shoot PCC, as you know, but like what is better for you, a 38 Super or a 9mm or a 9 major gun? You know, it's a big talk in the open division, and like, you know, it'd be nice for our viewers to hear what your perspective is.
Here's the thing, you know, there was this is kind of a segue, but I think it was Lucky Gunner, the website, did a torture test. 2 identical rifles. I think they were both M&P 15s or whatever, and 5.56, and they shot them until the barrel shot out. And they defined shooting out before they started. Hey, we're starting with 1.5 MOA accuracy at 100 yards. Once that has doubled, we'll call them shot out, right? So once the average group size has doubled, we say this barrel's toast. And they fired 10,000 rounds of quality PMC or, some type of brass case, brass jacket ammo before one was shot out. And they shot 5,000 rounds of, wolf, steel, bimetal jacket, throat or barrel killers. And they only got 5,000 rounds at it. So 5,000, 10,000, double the life expectancy of the part. However, you've saved more money than the barrel is worth by shooting this cheap stuff.
Got it.
That makes sense. You've net saved several $100s, assuming a $300 barrel. And I see a similar comparison in 9 and 38. I make decent money, doing all the various things I do, and my wife works, but I'm not made of money, So if I want to shoot 20 to 40,000 rounds a year, it's a lot more effective to do with 9. Yeah, my parts are going to break more. I've broken. If you name a part on a 2011, chances are I've broken it. I had an open gun at one point early on that the only thing original on it by the time I got rid of it was, I think the RTS2 on top, the sight mount, and like the guide rod. Everything else had broken or been replaced because I found something better, including the frame. Anyway. But with 9, I don't see that much of a difference. I've shot some very nice 38 Super Comp guns. I've had 2 wrist surgeries in the past 3 years, and I was very recoil averse for months at a time. And yeah, 9 does kick a little harder. However, 9 has the benefits of being cheaper, has the benefit of being easier to get the brass for, even if money's not a factor. My agreement with Shell Shock, for example, they provide my cases. I have no problem admitting that, or saying, hey, I didn't pay anything for these cases. That's not the core of what we're talking about. But that made it even. If Shell Shock makes 38 Super Comp, I'll load 38 Super Comp. But so we have the sponsorship arrangement there, and even if I lost Shell Shock as a sponsor, or we parted ways, I'd still shoot 9 because it's more cost effective, cost efficient, and the sheer amount of majors I shoot and local matches where it's hard or difficult or impossible to pick up your brass. When I was down in Florida, I lost my I was in Florida from April to October last year, getting trained up for this job. I was down at Mark 7, and I was shooting 3 times a week. I was shooting Steel Challenge Wednesdays, a 4-stage Outlaw on Thursdays, and at least 1 sanctioned USPSA match on the weekend. Okay. I wasn't picking up any of that brass. It was because, it is in Florida, Mike. You don't want to stand around being a pecking chicken every damn day. Right. You get sunburn in the back of your neck before you could blink. But no, so that all plays into why I shoot 9. 9 is not, with the powders that are available today, everything we've learned, show me a builder. It's hard to name a builder these days who can't make a 9 gun run. 10 years ago, that wasn't the truth.
Yeah.
The more data that's out there with ejector tuning, with extractor tuning, with a feed ramp setup, the more barrels that are available. We have Schumann's finally back on the market. We have KKM, you have SV, Barstow, and Cart. All of them are making bull barrels, or most of them making hybrid barrels too. You have options out there. So the fact, if you can't do the research and make a 9mm open gun run at this point, I don't want to say you're not trying, but something's going on. It's a proven concept.
So let's say, you say that there's not much of a difference, but let's say, the average, you might not feel much of a difference, but the average person that wants to buy an open gun, let's say money wasn't a factor. Do you think that there's a significant difference of I'll hit 95% of the points with a 38 Super versus 91 with a 9 major just because of the recoil difference? Or I've never personally shot one, but
people who say I'm not going to toot my own horn are almost immediately after that going to toot their own horn. Okay, so I'm not tooting my own horn here, but when this argument comes up, I remember 2017 Area 4 and 2017 Area 8. I won those area championships. On Area 8, I won it because my gun worked. Okay, I won it by a hair. I want to say 15 points, 20 points. Not much. but I looked at the scores of some of my fellow competitors who I expected to blow me out of the water, and I see a 30-second stage instead of a 12-second stage. You know, you don't have to tell me what happened. It's open. I know what happened.
Right.
You know, it's something bad happened. So, but my gun ran. You know, area 4, I edged Cody Baker out by 3 or 4%, and both of our guns ran. Neither of ours had a malfunction, but there's no. It truly is the Indian, not the arrow. Once you get to a certain point, does the equipment function, and can you put enough rounds through it to get used to it?
Right. I mean, that's kind of what me and Brian Harrington were talking about. He strictly shoots PCC, but you know, if you shoot like we shoot PCC all the time, I could pretty much pick up any PCC and be semi-proficient with it right away. Obviously, you know, give me a couple of weeks and I'll be a little bit more into the details about it and stuff. But yeah,
and what you just said is why I'm pushing so much. I'm about to train this afternoon in single stack, is because I'm getting used to that recoil impulse, that timing. You know, I call it trusting the gun. You know,
right. Put it into your subconscious. You know, so it's not like you know what a double tap feels like. That's going to put 2 in the middle.
Yeah, you know what it looks like.
Right.
One of the sayings I heard early on in my shooting, but took me years to really grasp the concept and fully realize it, was you need to see faster, right? And you need to see faster. And it took me, and I was like, "What the hell are you talking about? You need to see faster." Like that's not right. You know, you can only see so fast. What's going on? What truly boils down to is the ability to perceive faster, to process faster,
Process what you're seeing.
you know. And I'm sure you know it, Kita, but going from subconscious or unconscious incompetence all the way to unconscious competence, you know, those 4 steps. And you have to be able to put the time behind those variables. So you change ammo depending on the change. You may need more, you know, may need to go back out of the range for a few hundred rounds to retune yourself to it. Like when I shot CO Nats last year, the gun I was going to shoot, I couldn't get reliable. I thought I was chasing it down, thought I'd fix it. And all of a sudden I'm 5 days away from nationals. I'm like, this thing, I can't trust it. So I borrowed the same gun that I borrowed the 2 nationals before, but I'd already loaded the ammo. I didn't even have a press at that point because I was in transition, moving around. And luckily it chamber checked, but it was 124s. I was so used to shooting 147s out of CO guns. You know, I put only a few hundred rounds to that gun before I left for nationals. And I think that's kind of what helped me, because I was so alpha focused at that match, because I was not used to the recoil impulse and the dot tracking. But I had to. I didn't have a choice. And I personally think that cost me a little bit. You know, so
I mean, I give you credit for even shooting all these divisions in the first place. I mean, I remember the first time I think I actually met you in person was at PCC Nats, and I've never seen you post a video about PCC ever, except for when you were training for that. And you know, I don't know how you
sitting on the wall. And
I don't know how you shoot at a high level and you consistently switch back and forth from different platform to different platform, because to be at that high level, you have to be so good.
No, Mike, it's not a different platform. It's all a handgun. I don't remember what I placed.
The things we're saying.
Shooting.
Well, I'm talking about like just like we were talking about the recoil impulse between the different platforms and all that kind of stuff. I mean, to compete at the level that you're competing at, you know, and being able to switch back and forth between them is still, it's really impressive.
It's still a pistol in my hand. I'm still pressing out with it and gripping it roughly the same way. So there's, all I was saying is, when you say platform, you know, like that PCC, I shoot that thing like once a year, twice a year, and I'm horrible.
Well, I'm talking about the difference between like a 1911 trigger and like a double single, like, you know, like a production gun or something like that, where like, I mean, it's completely different feeling. Yeah, it might be a pistol. You don't have the big magwell. I mean, it's all different, you know? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess, I mean, maybe when you just get to your level, it all just kind of feels the same, but to me, that's still.
It's not about being at a level. It's about, you know, I've been a gun nut for a long time, but when I said, beginning of the show, I said, you know, someone, you know, it's talking about someone who's consumed with the sport. My job is in the industry. My hobby, call what you will, you know, the USPSA, takes a lot of my quote unquote free time, spare time, and money, and energy. And, you know what I do when I want to break? I go shoot. I went out back last night to do a little squirrel hunting on my property as a time to relax. So I am, when it comes to firearms, I'm around them. I'm in that sphere 24/7. So maybe that has something to do with it. You know, there's a lot of factors going there, but when you say platform change, in my mind, it's, yes, you can get narrow with it. You can continue to narrow that. Oh, the platform, this platform, that, or, you know, I think that's kind of an overused word. You know, hell, even something as simple as going from plastic grip to metal grip or back. You know, it changes the weight of the gun. That's a big change, right? So why did you shoot better or worse? It depends. There is no firm answer there. But at the end of the day, actually, I will back up my point with Corey Estel. He's actually a neighbor of mine. His wife is our vet. And he, as a lot of people know, he is the first person to become a GM in all 8 divisions. You know, and you know what his last division was? PCC.
Because it's so different.
Because it's so different.
And it came out last.
I'm sorry. Well, no,
no, there
it was in CO. Yeah, it came out at the same time. Well, you know what I mean. Get classifications, became provisional divisions at the same time. But it's only as scary as you make it. I mean, there are some things that actually. Let me tell you this: all the divisions I shoot are all single action.
Okay, that's fair. So then that.
Yeah. Even.
While he's looking, let's take a look at one of his other videos. Welcome back. All right, let's see it.
So no, this is just a Shadow 2. We got some Shooting Sports Innovations grips on it, but show clear here. But what I'm saying is they're all single action. I know obviously you have a double action, but as we all know, you can get double actions as long as you have some time on it. It's only one shot per stage, you know. But after that, we have roughly the same light, tunable, small action or small movement trigger of my 1911, 2011 handguns. The gun I was trying to get to work for CO Nats last year was a Zev OZ9. Basically, pretty sure there's a burr in the extractor channel from the optic mounting. But so to clean that up, it should be fine. But when it comes to, I think triggers and grip angle are the biggest factors when it comes to can you run that gun near the same proficiency you can with another system, another firearm.
So I have some questions for you. Obviously, you've been shooting optics for a while, and you have to get to the point where you can shoot target focused. Is there anything you did in your training with your vision to become proficient shooting target focused very accurately?
Nothing in particular. I started off in limited back in 13, 14, 15. All I shot was limited. And the day I picked up an open gun, it just clicked. You know, it was my first time shooting a pistol mounted dot. You know, I had time on M4 platforms with, CCOs and such, but my first time shooting a red dot on a handgun. And once I got over that wonderful game of find the dot, you know, it was, I did 10 places better with 200 rounds through any open division handgun. I shot 200 rounds through it. I shot limited nationals first, and then I stayed for open nationals. I placed 10 places better and like 6 or 7% in the overall better. And I was like,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was like, okay, well, I guess the limited gun's going in the safe for a while, you know, and that's what drew me to open. To answer the question about why I do it though, why I switch divisions is because I don't want to get bored. I don't want to get burned out on one division. And I noticed myself doing that. So I'll say, you know, what is my goal? What are my goals in this sport and with shooting in general? And it's like, you know what? If I can't win a national championship, I can't win a national championship yet, let's see how many divisions I can take top 10 in. You know, I want to see how many divisions that I can be competitive in. So, yeah. Sorry.
So I tell my students, if you're shooting iron sights and you want to get faster with it and more proficient, go shoot a dot for a while and then come back. And yeah, you're going to suck a little at first coming back to iron sights, but do you know why I told them to do that? What do they get out of it?
So you're target focusing the whole time, you know, and it's giving you instant feedback.
Yeah, that's one part, is that you're learning the target focus, and then you can push that out farther with the iron sights as well. But the other thing is, oh, I'm sorry, you said it.
Yeah.
I was talking. You said it, that immediate feedback.
Mhm.
I can't talk and listen at the same time. Yeah, that immediate feedback on exactly what's happening with your gun, and you can become more accurate at predicting how it's going to move through recoil and things like that. And you can self-diagnose so much
Now,
easier.
well, are you talking about like a gun, like a pistol that's co-witness, iron sights with the dot? So that way now you essentially, like, your red dot is like a training wheels, and then you just take the dot off and now you're shooting the iron sights. Is that what you're talking about? Or
No.
I don't think so, no.
Hmm.
And in fact, the only gun that I have co-witness on is my carry gun, because, RMR, everything fails. Like, I don't think that'll change anytime soon. But no, it's exactly that. You get instant feedback. You
Yeah.
you end up being surprised less, or less often. And that's what's kind of cool about open and CO. Actually, just happened last week. I was down in Florida, borrowed my coworker Tom Carlson's HK-VP9 with RTS2 on it, and I haven't done anything with the footage yet, but I'm leaving a position, burner 8-round array, and as I'm leaving, I've already left. My eyes are looking the other direction. I'm running. You hear me yell out Delta, because I was able to call that, and ended up being a Charlie, just barely. But it gives you that ability to. It was an outlaw 4-stage, local match. It didn't really matter. Just some fun with, to hose. But it was that instant feedback. And I was like, Tom, I don't like your gun. It's not what I'm used to at all. But no, the instant feedback, it's amazing. My wife, she hardly shoots at all. I force her, against her will, to shoot a few rounds a year to make sure she's still proficient and stuff. And, I put a PCC in her hands, that JP, and with a red dot, and just hit an 8-inch plate at 25 yards, like clockwork, barely any instruction. Put red dot on target, pull trigger.
right.
It's that simple. So
you find out real quick what things make that dot not be on target. You pull the trigger a little bit wrong, your grip is a little off, whatever it may be, you get that immediate feedback.
It's funny. I hate shooting groups. I've never been a quote unquote good group shooter. It's not. It's, I get bored. I get tense.
Well, it's not what we do.
It's not what we do. Yeah. But even pre this sport, I've never been very good at shooting groups, and maybe it's the ADHD. Who knows? But shooting groups with a red dot saves me so much damn time, because I know when it's me. I'm shooting that group to get zeroed. Oh, yep, there's gonna be one low right. I know that. We're gonna ignore that. We're just gonna keep going. We're not surprised when we get down to and see a shotgun blast on the target. So the red dots are the future. The future is now, man.
We keep talking about that, and that's one of the biggest things I have to say to somebody that's coming in new to the game that's trying to get better is shot calling. Like, if you can you can start practicing to learn how you can call your shots where what you hit. It takes the makeup shots and it turns them into, instead of a double tap, it's a triple tap, and it doesn't sound like you even thought about taking another shot. Or, you just know you're hitting. That's one of the biggest things that somebody gave me at one point was, like, you need to start calling your shots, because, my shots were all over the target. And I don't know, there are sometimes even still that I'm like, I didn't call that shot where it was. Like, I'm pretty sure I had 2 in the middle, but
because you have to pay attention. It's not necessarily an automatic reflex of, I know that was 2 alpha. It was, maybe there's some indecision there. It's like, and what sucks is that can hurt you. You leave that array and it's in your head.
Yeah.
Well, like, I'll shoot knockdown steel matches, and those, to me also help calling shots, because if you want to be good at like a falling steel or a knockdown steel match, you can't be sitting there waiting to see the thing fall. You got to call your shot and move on. So, like, if you feel like my shot calling's off a little bit, I'll try to go shoot a couple more falling steel matches. There's a couple things that you can do, but yeah, for the most part, that. And I kind of wanted to touch on again the what you were saying about how everything slows down a little bit, how much information you can take in visually, because I know Max Lee Grandis at one point had put out a video about that I understood what he was saying, but I can understand why people were confused. And it was just, he was talking about how much information you can process at one time. And that's like when everybody talks about, oh, the game slows down for me, like when the buzzer goes off, like it feels like everything's in slow motion. It's because you're getting so much stuff, and you're able to process that in your brain so fast. And that's why when you're brand new at the sport, everything you feel like you got a million things to do, and your brain feels like it's going a million miles an hour. And I feel like
I disagree with something you just said.
really,
Yeah, I disagree that you process it.
in what way?
I don't think it's a conscious effort whatsoever.
Oh, it's subconscious. Yeah,
No, I'm saying I don't even think you're truly processing it. Your brain is seeing the information, flow through it, and it's looking for stuff to be out of whack. Call it a groove, call it being in the zone, whatever you want. Your brain, you call it subconscious. I'm sure that's a more accurate description. But you're letting the stuff that doesn't matter flow past you. You're letting the stuff that, it's when you hit a snag. It's when you go for that mag change. Yes. Yeah. It's when you go for that mag change and it catches the lip of the mag well, and you have to, you have to fix it right then. And now you're off because we interrupted that information flow.
That's me.
But you can prevent that by having processed it beforehand. So if it's happened to you before, you've had to deal with it, then you already know what you're going to do if that happens, and you can just fix it without interrupting that flow.
Yeah, my problem is I always try to make that up with speed, and that's when my brain goes haywire and I lose the rest.
I fall into the same trap.
I mean, usually you could tell where, like, okay, I may get hung up here. Like if I'm coming around this wall that's tight, like I could, if I get hung up with my barrel, that's one thing. It's when something that you didn't expect to happen happens. That's when it really, blows my mind, and my whole stage goes out the window after that. So
I have no problem saying it. Second to last or third, one of the last few stages at Open Nationals last year. Like I said, I shoot a lot, and especially when I have nationals coming up, I don't change things on my gun. Like at least a month ahead of time, we may change parts out for fresh parts. Change out my shock buff,
right.
Double check my, that I'm not getting hammer follow. Double check all the things that can kill it, but don't change anything leading up. On that stage, all of a sudden, my slide release started engaging. I've owned this gun for, with minor cosmetic changes for 2 seasons. We've never touched the slide stop. What the heck? I'm using the same mags or the same guts, for the last month. Has never happened before. What's going on? And we still don't know the exact cause of it, but like I said, beginning of the show, stuff happens, stuff breaks. But being able to override that, and I did okay in the moment. I started chucking extras because I was just off, but it wasn't, I didn't finish 50th on the stage. It's how can you limit? Stuff's going to happen to you, especially in Open and in PCC. How do you adjust? How do you either train out the deficiency on your end or correct the gear deficiency? Cody Baker, a good friend of mine. I love the guy to death. I look forward to seeing him back on the range. He's constantly screwing with his gun. Like on the range, he's screwing with it, or is right on the edge of being functional. And I'm like, Cody, why, man? He's like, well, I wanted to be this way. It's your own fight. It's your own gear. And that's part of the things I love about this sport. It's not a team sport. My success and failures are mine.
Mm-hmm.
But man, show up to a match with gear that runs and worry about the rest later.
I couldn't justify driving 10 hours to a match, like 50% sure that my gun's going to run the whole time. Like that's just a waste of time in my mind. I mean, unless you're going there to have fun. Like if you're going there to compete and win, then you can't have your gun go down almost ever, if you're trying to win. So, I mean, right. Yeah, that's one of the most important.
There's this training technique in martial arts called Matori Geiko. It's where basically they're learning by watching others. When you watch others compete, you're taking from them things that you like, but you're also watching their failures, what made them not succeed. And then when you do that, you've already thought through all of these things that could go wrong. So let's say you're watching a bunch of people shoot a stage and you're up last and you see all these people making the same mistake. Then you're sitting back there thinking, okay, why are they doing this? What am I going to do if that happens to me? And it's not that you're not visualizing everything going perfectly. You visualize it going perfectly, but you also address whatever possible issue there is and think through it. Okay, this is what I'm going to do so that if something happens, then you can act on it immediately without interrupting your flow of the stage.
Yeah, low cap shooters, production, single stack, L10, there's a saying that you have to internalize with those. If you get off plan, get back on plan as quickly as possible. So you have extras on steel, it forces you to do a standing reload. Like you don't leave that mag in, you get back on plan, you get back to the plan of, hey, when I was leaving this position, I was reloading,
Right.
you know, and
Yep,
that doesn't
and then your
always
next-
work. That doesn't always work out. Maybe you don't have that many magazines on your belt. But it's internalizing that, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's damn near impossible, excuse my language there, it's almost impossible to fully 100% subconsciously internalize every single failure that could happen. You can play to your strengths. You can look at the more likely failures and work those out. I'm talking more, you know, that slide release activating on me.
Mhm.
Hey, there's no way I could have predicted that. You know,
Right.
it's no way that could have happened, or no way I could have seen that coming. So you have to be able to adapt. But it all comes into play when that little beepy boy goes off in your ear, and you have to do it now.
I think of it more as thought sequencing. It's not that you're not having any conscious thoughts. It's more like you're having
Okay.
a
Okay,
conscious thought one at a
Well,
time in order.
It's for me, it's a dance. So like when I'm doing my walkthroughs and like, you know, like sort of like come to the left corner, shoot 3 targets, go to the right corner, target, steal, target, you know. So like to me, as I'm going through the stage, it's subconscious, but I'm still just like, you know, I come through this corner and shoot 3. So I run to that corner, I go 3, and then I leave here, and like that way I know I'm not forgetting anything. So I mean,
It's got to be
it's
got to be more detailed than that in your visualization. You need to know exactly what you need to see on each target. You need to sort of feel during your visualization how your body is going to move as you're executing each step.
I agree with that. That's something that I don't think a lot of people.
Is it attack or is it control? What
The
is your
difference between
split going to
coming in,
sound like?
well, the difference between coming in on your left foot or your right foot, like, you know, that affects now.
I like looking at it in relation to 3 pieces. Where are my feet? Where are my hips? Where are my eyes?
Yes.
You know, where am I looking? Where am I placing my feet? Where am I orienting the core of my body?
Not where you're going. So you're not thinking about your next position, not the position you're at.
You know, I'm saying like to maximize where I'm, you know, in the plan, I need to be thinking about each position. Where are my feet, hips, and eyes? So
Well,
if I'm coming to, go ahead.
Mike, you never want to be thinking about what's next. You think about what you're doing 100% in the moment.
I don't know. Well, I feel like you know, you could be getting out of a position faster if you shoot a target array in a certain, you know, from left to right or right to left to set up better going to the next spot. It's kind of like in pool. Like,
Oh,
you don't
yeah.
hit the ball you're trying to hit into the pocket. You're trying to lead the ball for the
You
next
always
shot.
set up to get out.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Or
Sorry.
you set up, or you set up to make the exit as smooth as possible. You know, you're not always going to be able to set up, you know, a tight lean around a wall. You know, you're going to have to reset. You're going to have to. So how can I set myself up for the easiest reset? You know, is this a shot where I want to be towards the back corner, or do I want to hug the wall on this and one hand it so to make the entry and exit that much quicker with some risk? You know,
do I rework my whole plan and make that my last position? You know, it's like now then you start thinking about like maybe I go front to back because this sucks and I don't want to have to get out of here. I'll just finish here. So yeah, there's a lot of things in stages that are, you know, I love stage planning. It's one of, you know, my most favorite things to do. And I'm sure I annoy the crap out of a lot of people on the range because I'm always like, well, what's your plan? I'll tell you my plan. I just want to know what you're thinking and why you're thinking it that way, because like maybe I'm just not looking at it right. And I'm always trying to learn something. So, you know, I know at Area 6, I think I ruffled a couple feathers with guys that I never really met before because I'm just like, well, no, your plan's wrong. Like, that's just wrong. Do it this way. And then like, you know, well, why are you coming to yeah.
You can be right and wrong at the same time.
Right.
And by that, you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it all comes down to execution anyway. And it, you know, like we had a Brian Harrington on the podcast a couple podcasts ago, and he ran, you know, we compared our one stage that we shot at Area 6. He went completely opposite than I did, but we ended up finishing at the exact same time. So like, you know, you can sit there and debate all these plans. At the end of the day, though, you got to hit the targets in the middle and you got to do it fast. So it doesn't really matter.
What I mean by right and wrong is you can be right within the limitations of your own capabilities and wrong, and that is the best plan. You know, if I walk up to a stage and a great example, Area 8 several years ago, one of Bill Duda's championships at Ontalani, there was you had the option, you know, seated start. By the way, I saw the saddest DQ I've ever seen. Guy drove 6 hours, first stage, unloaded start, put his mags, and then moved a mag in front of his gun with his hand.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was kind of sad. But no, at the end, you had a choice. You could either stand there and shoot these 8-inch plates. It was like a spaced out plate rack. You could shoot them from 50 yards, 40 yards ish, something like that. I know it was, it was about 40 yards, or you could sprint and shoot them at like 8 yards. Which one do you choose?
Sprint.
I would sprint and shoot him at 8 yards. I've done a test before. Yeah.
You know, knowing what I know now, you know, but at the time with my capabilities, you know, I was pretty good. I still feel like I'm pretty good at long shots. You know, I had a stage win at CO Nats back in 2020. It was the longest range stage in the match. You know, and I freaking crush. I know I can shoot long range. I can't shoot groups very well, but I know that, okay, I can do this. And I had a few makeups, but in the moment, I still felt like that was the better plan because I was relatively smooth doing it. And knowing what I know now, you know, but with my limitations, but I underestimated how much time savings. I didn't want to be, you know, huffing and puffing, you know, trying to shoot some steel targets and, you know, quickly. It's a balancing act, and knowing your limitations and trying to play to your strengths while minimizing the effect your weaknesses have on it. So in the moment, I felt like I was right. You know,
well, I'm talking about more of a situation where like I can shoot these targets coming across a window without being in the window. So I could be about 4 yards back from the window, but then there are people that are like, well, I'm going to go up into the window because I want it to be closer. And it's like, I don't know. Like I have a tough time saying that, like, yeah, I get you're shooting a pistol, but there's a difference between a 10-yard shot and a 13 or 14-yard shot. And it's going to be much more efficient for you moving in and out of the position if you don't go up into the window. So that's where I have a hard time telling people like, hey, even if you think that you can't do it, like it's not like you're shooting 2 feet to 40 yards. You know, I mean, you're shooting an extra 4 yards and it's going to make you.
The real answer to that is you set up a stage in your training and you put it on the clock and you find out for yourself. The kid was about to say something about the topic though.
Oh, go ahead. I think you're about to say it.
No,
it depends.
It depends. Yeah. The hunt and peck, you know, it has to be a call. It has to be what does it save you? You know, does it add 5 steps to my plan? 6 steps? Yeah, I might consider it. Or sorry, does it save me 6 steps in my plan? Or do I have to go that direction anyway?
It's interesting that you said that. So you count steps. You don't see, like, to me, I do more flow. So like, I don't really care
steps
how many
equals time.
steps it is. Yes, it does. But in the same way that we just talked about that one example where I could sprint forward and shoot him from 8 or stay back. Does it? You know,
well, it depends. That's a very large distance relative in our sport. A 30-yard sprint.
You don't see that very often.
No,
right.
You don't.
Here's what it depends on. One, the target difficulty. I mean, is there a no shoot on every single target? And you're trying to take it from 40 yards back?
Even
how many targets are there?
It doesn't matter. Even if they were all open paper, it's still better to run up there and hose all alphas with 0.14 splits versus staying back.
Okay, if there's one target that's open at 40 yards, are you going to run up and shoot, or are you going to stay back?
No, one target. No, that's not worth it. I could take 3 aim shots by the time. Well, how many were targets?
You just said it doesn't matter. You're going to run up there.
All right, that's valid.
Yeah, target difficulty also includes target distance. It's not something you can write down a flow chart.
What is the risk versus reward?
Yeah, exactly. You know, not Carry Optics Nationals. Sorry. Yeah, well, it was PCC CO Nats last year. Up Upper Bay, there was an option to take 6 mini poppers at 30 yards, or add 3 steps. So from the start, you could take them and save a position, but you can end at that position where you can see them and you're 10 yards closer.
I did that.
And because you had a rifle. Oh, sorry. Did you go to the port or did you?
I went to the port. So what I found with the PCC is like, I found that the fastest way to shoot it is the same way that you'd shoot a pistol, because, you know, yeah, it's a little more convenient, but like the same plan. Like, you know, when I first started shooting rifle, a lot of people would say, oh, you know, how come you just don't shoot them from the back line? And after I've done a couple of those tests where it's like, I guess in Keita's way, if there's only one target, I'll stay back. But if there's a bunch of targets that we have to go up there and shoot, and I can either stay back here or run up there and hose them, I'm going to run up and hose them because it's better every time. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like
open a decent chunk of the squad shot it from the back, surprisingly. In CO, almost nobody.
What'd you do?
I shot it from the port, and I won the stage.
So how do you feel though? Because like I watched a bunch of people shoot PCC before me, and they just crush it from the back, and I'm like, well, my plans got me going to the port. Like, am I thinking about this wrong? So I started second guessing myself.
Well, I talked about limitations a minute ago. It's not just about limitations; it's about what you are. What can you do 10 times in a row?
What is your skill level?
What is
Well,
your skill level?
when you
What's
watch
your
six
confidence?
people, when you watch 6 people before you, just like, you know, one for one of them, and you're like, maybe I'm not thinking about that, right?
Well,
Maybe
Mike, you have to hit alphas.
Well, I agree, but yeah, I agree. But we're talking about mini poppers. There's 8 mini poppers set up in a row, or 6 mini poppers, whatever, set up in a row. And you either take them from the back right corner of the stage, or you can either start there and take a couple papers and then get around and then finish into a window where you're shooting those same mini poppers, you know, from 10 yards closer. And I was like, man, I'll just, you know, I feel like I can go 1 for 1 and be faster on them closer. But then you watch like 6 people before you just go 1 for 1 from 10 yards.
Let me tell you how you answer that question. You go to the range and you test it. Because if you know what your transition from paper to a mini at that distance is, you have that data. Okay. And that's what I'm, when people say at my level or competing at my, whatever, all this stuff.
You have to define it.
The people on the super squad can change from any given year. The people who win it can be different than any given year. Like once you get to a certain amount of time and rounds down range and competitions, you start to realize the proof's in the pudding. If I know what my transition time is on a target of roughly that difficulty, I can write that down. I can put it in a calculator, and it becomes a math problem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, within reason. You know, reality likes to rear its ugly head. But you know, with the Open Super Squad, we get in chats like this all the time. We run stage plans off each other. You know, it's not like it's oh no, I'm not going to give ammo to my rival or whatever. It's okay. So we're looking at a stage plan. Okay, that wide transition, what is that? It's about a 35, yeah, 35, 40. Like we both know we're all around the same.
For a wide transition, a 35 to 40?
No. For this transition, for a transition of a given transition, you know that number. For this transition and this distance, you can start plugging it in. So if I know versus if I'm comparing 2 plans and I know what my time per transition and my likelihood of a hit, you know, is going to be at a position versus the other, you can start piecing that math together. Or, you know, it's even simpler, Mike. Stopwatch yourself. Have your friend run a stopwatch. I'm usually running it dry versus, reality, you know, on the buzzer and getting a real time. I have been consistently, if nothing goes wrong, within a second. Within a second of my real time, I can get it on the dry, assuming everything goes to plan. So with that data, if that's true for you, if you can regulate your dry fire to be within, you know, reality of your live fire, with what the timing takes, you know, what you're seeing,
Mike doesn't.
and you can put that on paper and you can just run it twice, see what's faster. But then you also have to factor in the risk factor, risk versus reward.
Yeah, predicting hit factor really helps with this as well. And I have that formula in my next book, Train Smart, where you can just plug in your numbers. And I have this box called T plus, anything that could potentially go a little bit sideways and cost you a little bit of extra time. Like if you're doing a stand and shoot L-Pres or something, what's probably going to cost you the most time?
It's just so.
What is a time sink?
Well, it's just
probably the draw.
Well, hold on. But to me, like, it's interesting to hear us talk about everything that goes into this, because, like, you know, this is not what you hear the average person who's just playing this game for fun talk about it.
And you know what's funny
at all
is I don't think that helps our sport.
Really?
Yeah. You know, you have a newbie walk up with their, you know, Glock with a SRO on it or whatever, and they walk up to people with, you know, shooting blouses on, looking like NASCAR, and they're doing algebra.
Well, it's different for them. I'm talking about more the person that's trying to get better and you know, get better. When they first walk up.
If I show up for a fishing tournament and I see the graphing calculator come out, I'm gonna be a little worried that I'm in the right spot.
That's valid.
Oh, that is a really good point.
I don't know. For me, when I tell those new guys, I just want you to keep the gun that way, and I want you to have a good time, because I want to come back, you know.
And it's funny. I think IDPA has it right. Time plus penalties. You can explain that to someone in 10 seconds.
It's very confusing to understand the scoring when you're new. I would agree with that.
What do you mean hit factor?
Right.
Well, it's points per second. Huh?
How do you do that? How do you score?
And then it's like a grading
Major
curve
versus
in
minor.
grade
Yeah, and then-
school.
Yeah.
It's based on whoever shot the best. That's 100% now.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, what?
Grading on a curve.
Right.
But
Yeah.
no, anyway, you can get into that. And man, I looked at practice score the other day, and on the competitor app, I have 254 logged entries. And I don't know how far back that goes.
Matches?
But
254 matches?
Logged, under, ever since I started using practice score to
Competitor.
register.
Got
So
it.
let's see.
Interesting. I have about the same amount of matches though. I'm
I
at like
kind of want to see what the.
you're so much better than I am though.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. My buddy, when I was I'm
Because he
206.
practices.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Because he lives in Kentucky and he could shoot out of his one room out of his window. I mean, that's nice.
Well, actually, you mentioned that. Hold on. Yeah, I'm glad this is a video audience. So
Yeah. See, this is not a New Jersey thing.
Oh my goodness.
Oh God, I got to get out of this state.
That just happened.
That's so awesome. Yeah,
I don't make a habit of it.
I'd be much more willing to practice. You know, I mean, my God, and like
And
I'm out on the road.
for all the safety people out there, there is a hill immediately to my right, and I own the property for half a mile.
And we do have an audio rip audience. If you could explain what just happened.
Oh, I just fired a suppressed 300 blackout out the window from my head. It comes up pretty often. People are jealous, or oh, you're so lucky. Like, bro, I'm on 4G internet out here. Like, I can't even get Starlink yet. It's like
that is cool.
I'm on septic. I'm on city water, but I can shoot. You know, I sacrificed. I made the choice when I was looking for property here. When I got the job at Shooters Connection, I made the choice to look for property I could shoot on. You know, because I was making this I was choosing to prioritize my ability to shoot. I was choosing to prioritize being alone out here in the boonies. You know, I have neighbors, but I didn't tell anybody that locally that I was going down to Florida. I didn't tell anybody that my wife was staying here in Kentucky because I'm not a dummy. 6 weeks, the front lawn didn't get mowed. My wife was about to pick me up from the airport, and the neighbor finally came over to see if everything was okay. And I'm like, 6 weeks, yes,
Right.
yes.
People leave
like,
alone.
You know, and I think it's mainly because they wanted to buy the land, but why they cared. But no, I made those choices. So you can, everyone has that same choice. Oh, my job, my work. Yeah, everyone has their own things going on, but there's a lot of land out there available with little dinky, 40-year-old houses on it that aren't selling. So, I mean, if you want to make that choice, it's pros and cons.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
So you mentioned how our match math doesn't really help new shooters and kind of is intimidating for them. What can we do you think, to bring in more new shooters?
No, don't get me wrong. I don't think it's a problem that needs fixing. I think it is relatively unique, and I think it is what the USPSA and IPSC is: speed and accuracy, and power. That is the core of why this sport, this discipline, whatever you want to call it, exists. So unless you are measuring speed and accuracy in some other way, we could go to time plus. It could end up being that a Charlie is, a quarter second or a tenth of a second, whatever math you want to come up with in there. But it's not broken. It's just that if we identify these things, we can help guide newer shooters. And hey, don't be worried about that. Okay. Yes, you may get into that eventually. That can be in the new shooter briefing, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. I'm just bringing up a point that IDPA is easier to get into for those reasons. You go buy a gun at the gun store, you get an Uncle Mike's nylon holster, you throw some, injection molded bargain basement mag carriers on your belt. You show up with a regular belt. There's probably no Velcro involved in most people's daily carry. Okay. And you shoot the match. Hey, shooting the center of the target's good, right? Okay. And then, but here, with ours, we have more activators. It's a more complex sport. Having a more complex scoring system is not a deal killer. I'm just saying, if we want to talk about growing the sport, about CO taking off because it's fun and I can go buy a stock, whatever, that comes already
Mhm.
milled with a plate, buy factory ammo and go shoot. That should be, people crying about production dying. Okay, no, it's because production was stupid to begin with. Okay, no, I have plenty of friends who have decided to shoot production, and I'm still friends with them. What I'm saying is, from a new shooter point of view, from bringing people into this that stay, okay, you're not going to do it by telling them that, the gun you'd already spent several $100s on, you need to go buy a bunch more mags. You can only load them up 10 rounds, and you have every disadvantage in the book.
Right.
Okay, that does not bring someone. Is someone coming to? Well, I'm having trouble.
Plus the stage planning is so much harder for people.
Yeah. But now with CO, they can go buy a 320. They can go buy a Walther. They can go buy a Glock MOS. They can buy for under $1,000. They have an entire kit. They have an entire rig, and they're shooting and they're having fun. Right. That should teach us something. Well, why is open not growing? Because it's expensive and stuff breaks, man.
That's why I don't shoot it.
Why is limited not growing? Because it's 40 caliber. People think they need a custom gun in 40, or they need a hand load to do it. Why is single stack? Because no one likes low cap. Okay. And we wonder why CO is growing so fast. Right. Oh, it's a mystery. I have no idea. But from a new shooter engagement, from growing participation, CO was 100% the right direction to go. With opening it up to 140 mags, keeping it minor only, and letting you run about.
Right. Now,
So do you think you're ever going to teach classes?